Hello, and welcome to this meeting of the Barbados Genealogy Group. We greet participants who are joining us on Zoom, as well as those who are following on Facebook Live. My name is Harriet Pierce, and I am the coordinator for the group, which has been in existence since March 2014. Today, we welcome Nicholas Mears to the forum in the first of a two-part series, which will look at various online resources that can be used in family research. He will also highlight various techniques that can be adopted to make research more successful. Nicholas Mears currently holds the position of Information Officer with the Barbados Genealogy Group. His responsibilities include presentations such as this, as well as writing and editing articles for our newsletter Connections, which is currently in production. Nicholas has also been a workshop facilitator for the Runaway Slave Ads project, which was conducted in 2019 and 2020. Since 2007, Nicholas has been conducting genealogical research into his family and the persons who once lived in the area of Bibby's Lane in St. Michael. In addition, he also traces land ownership of the same district. Nicholas holds a Bachelor of Science in Political Science and History with upper second-class honors from the University of the West Indies at Cape Hill, and an associate degree in art, in information technology and history from the Barbados Community College. He is passionate about conducting historical research and seeks every opportunity to utilize his education and research skills. But before we hear from Nicholas, let's do a little housekeeping. Please hold your questions until the end of the presentation. You can either type your question in the question and answer section, which is at the bottom of your screen, or use the raise hand feature at the bottom of the screen, and we will allow you to speak. We want you to enter any comments or greetings which are not questions in the chat. For now, let's welcome Nicholas. Nicholas?
Thank you, Harriet Pierce, for your introduction. Thanks to everyone who is participating in this workshop, this online meeting. I know that the coronavirus, the COVID-19 has come and has disrupted the plans of many persons. And some persons might be thinking, oh no, I have to put my genealogical research on hold because I am unable to go to Barbados or visit the various institutions that contain records. But I want to inform persons that thankfully, some of our records have been digitized and they're now available online. So therefore, you can stay within the comfort of your own home and you can engage in genealogical research to some extent. So the aim of this presentation, which is entitled Tracing Barbadian Genealogies Using Online Resources, I seek to introduce participants to the various websites that they can use, the various information that they can obtain from these websites, and the various ways that you can navigate these websites in order to obtain genealogical information. The format that I would use is online presentation, so therefore I would be showcasing the various websites that are available. And I will begin with the first website, which is CaribbeanFamilyHistory.org. CaribbeanFamilyHistory.org. And this contains several information that persons can use. But this is mainly to research burials which were conducted in Barbados. And with this website is a freely accessible non-scription based website that persons can use to access various information, which includes burials, which includes information on ministers who served mainly in the Anglican Church. It also contains information pertaining to persons who were Quakers, and it also contains slave compensation information. I will first go and click on the tab that is named Burials. And once you click, you have the option of searching. You have two options in terms of searching for persons. You can browse the list of last names, or you can search the burial database. So I will click on the tab Browse List of Last Names. And this showcases the various last names in alphabetical order, beginning with A, of course. And you can scroll down and see the various surnames which you can click, and you can search for persons if they were Ali or Alob or Alonzo. You can click on these various surnames to search for various persons. You can change to B, click on the letter B, and there's a listing of persons, a listing of surnames that begins with B, Bailey and such stuff. So I will click on one. I will click on, let's see, Bailey. And once you scroll down, you will see a list of surnames that begins with that are Bailey, and it shows that it comes up with 100 results. But if I go back in terms of burials, let me go back, click on Home, click on Burials, and it provides information at the top and it reads, Barbados. The records from before 1870 were transcribed from microfilm of the registers loaned from the Latter-day Saints Library in Salt Lake City. All records after 1870 were transcribed from registers held in the Barbados Archives, Black Rock, St. Michael. The complete Westbury Public Cemetery registers from 1875 to 2011 were transcribed, thanks to the generosity of Mr. Richard Goddard. So therefore, we see that this was a volunteer effort. It was not something that was commissioned by the government of Barbados or by any institution. This is a website that was created by someone out of their own interest in genealogical research, and they had a number of persons who volunteer to gather this information. And after gathering the information, they have created this website that you can see before you. Okay, I will further demonstrate what you can do on this website. There is the option to search the burial database. And once you click on that tab, it provides you with the option of entering a first name and also a last name. So I would enter a first name, which would be Richard, and I will enter last name of Bibi. And once I click on search, I have one result for a Richard Ambrose Paul Bibi, who was buried in Westbury Cemetery. And once I click on his name, it provides me with information pertaining to Richard Ambrose Paul Bibi. We see that his date of burial was July the 11th, 1883, and that he was 47 years of age, and that his place of abode was Tweedside, which would be in St. Michael. The church was Westbury Cemetery that he was buried at. The place of birth was St. Michael, and his rank or occupation was barrister at law. So therefore, we see that this website can be quite helpful to persons who are researching their genealogy, especially the burials of persons. But as was mentioned before, it is limited mainly that after 1870, most of the information is pertaining to persons who are buried at Westbury Cemetery. So if I just go back to, if I take out the first name Richard and just leave the last name Bibi and click on search, we see that there are a number of burial records which contain Bibi starting from the date of January the 6th, 1875. And we can scroll down and see the various Bibis. You have the option of expanding it to show various entries. So at the moment, it's just showing 10 entries, but you can click on the down arrow, which is next to the number 10, and it allows you to go to 50. And therefore, it expands the view of the listings. So therefore, we see it goes from 1875 and come all the way down to the last entry, which is for 2011, August the 20th, 2011, and the person was Elsie Elaine Bibby, and she was buried at Westbury Cemetery. So therefore, as I mentioned that as the website mentioned that after the year 1870, you mainly get Westbury Cemetery. Okay, I will click on Home. And we also have a tab named Ministers, and you can click on this tab, and this can provide you with the names of persons who served as ministers, mainly within the Anglican Church. So I will enter the last name of, let's say, Clark, and see what information is provided. And as you can see, there are various Clarks that serve as ministers. We see that at the side, it has various references. There's MIBI. If I go back, sorry about that. At the bottom, you see sources. So MI stands for found on monumental inscriptions. B is found in burials. C stands for the Shilston notebooks, which can be found at the Barbados Museum in their library, the Shilstone Library. So therefore, it shows you the various sources from which the ministers were obtained from. So if I go and click on search again, it provides you with a listing of ministers with the surname Clarks. So this can be another help to persons who might have had ancestors who were ministers. I will click on Home, and there's the third option, the third tab, which is Quakers. And it says the Quakers in Barbados. The database of Barbadian Quakers is taken from various publications. So we see that these were derived from various resources. So if you go to the bottom, there is a tab that is named Search Entire Data Set. And let's enter this time a first name, and we can enter the first name John. And let's click on search. And this provides us with a list of persons whose first name was John, who were Quakers from the year 1689 so from the 17th century to the 18th century, we have a number of Johns who were Quakers, and it provides you with various information on the right-hand side pertaining to their place of burial, visit Barbados and describe. So therefore, there are various notes pertaining to these various persons who are listed. So this is an option that you can use to research your family history. So I will click on Home, and I will click on the last tab, which is Slave Compensations. And this tab, it provides you with listings of persons who received compensation after emancipation of 1834, in the year 1834. You are able to search this listing and see the various persons who were compensated for the loss of their enslaved property. So you have the option to search slave compensation, and you can enter the names of persons. Let's enter the name Clark. And if you notice on the left-hand side, it has Antigua. Once you click on the down arrow, you see Barbados. So you make sure you select the country Barbados and then click on search. And it provides you with a list of clerks who were compensated after emancipation on the 1st of August, 1834. We see, let's see the first person. Their first name is William, their last name is Clark. The year is 1837. The month is the 8th month, which would be August, and the day is the 18th. So the 18th day of August, 1837, they received compensation for the loss of their enslaved property. And it provides a listing that this person, they owned 25 slaves, and their compensation was £650, 11 shillings and 1 pence. So this can be useful information for both those who are descendants of enslavers and also persons who are descendants of the enslaved. And I will discuss that later on, how this can be helpful for persons who are descendants of the enslaved. So this is one website that persons can use to help them in their genealogical research. But mainly, I know that most persons would mainly want to use this website in order to search the burial database to hopefully obtain information pertaining to the burials of their ancestors. So this can be helpful, but unfortunately is limited to mostly persons who were buried at Westbury Cemetery. I will now move on to our next website, which persons can use. This is www.fineagrave.com. And this is a website that anyone can upload information. This is not a government-sponsored website or is not maintained by an archives department or a museum. This is a website that has been created in which persons can just freely upload burial information pertaining to their deceased loved ones. And we see that there is various tabs, and there is the option to enter the cemetery location. And for this, you can enter the name Barbados. And you can enter, let's say, a first name, middle name, last name. I will enter the last name Clark. I want to click on search. It provides you with a listing of persons with the surname Clark who were buried in Barbados at various cemeteries. So therefore we see with the first one, Barbara Jean Clark. She was buried at St. Mary's Church Cemetery. It has her that she lived between the year 1929 to 1995. We have the second option of a gentleman named Clement Christopher Clark. His date of birth was unknown, but his date of burial was the 28th of August, 1984. And let's click on this person, Clement Christopher Clark, and see what information we can derive. We see here that a picture was provided of Clement Christopher Clark, and various information is provided. His date of death, as I mentioned, was the 28th of August, 1984. He was buried in St. Joseph, Barbados. Yes, St. Joseph Parish Church Cemetery. And we see that we have a picture of Mr. Clement Clark, and we also have below that picture a tombstone which is provided pertaining to that person. And we can click on the tombstone to enlarge it, and it provides you with an image of the tombstone, and you can read the information. So therefore we see that this can be quite helpful if you're doing genealogical research, because it provides a listing of persons who were buried. It provides pictures of persons. It provides picture of their tombstones. So therefore you can use this to access information. But as I mentioned, anyone can upload information. So therefore this website, as far as I am aware, is not monitored. So therefore you can various persons can upload pictures and the names of persons. So therefore you have to be careful with this website in pertaining to the accuracy of some of the information, because it's not, as far as I understand, is monitored. So therefore we see that there are various persons who are listed. There are some which have tombstones. There are some which have pictures of the individuals, and there are some that do not have pictures, but they just have information pertaining to the various persons. So this is another option that persons can use. Okay, I forgot to mention something in Caribbean family history. So I will go back to this website, and you can scroll down to the bottom, and it provides various links to other websites. So therefore we see under recent activity, there is the Clark family. Let me click on that link. And it provides you with some information, if I may read it. The Clark family of Barbados. Over a period of about 25 years, Mrs. Mona A. Watson, nee Farmer of Surrey, England, collected every mention of the Clark name in Barbados. The result was roughly 600 handwritten pages of information. Let me repeat that again, 600 handwritten pages of information. So this person obviously was enthusiastic about the surname Clark. So therefore, if you have Clark in your genealogy, you might be able to visit this website. You can search the Clark history. You can click on that tab, but I think unfortunately at the moment that website is not working, unfortunately. Let me go back. There's also the option of the Gittins family. Add a link to the Gittins family. If we click on that, there's Clark family, and under Clark family, there's monumental inscriptions, and underneath slave compensation available for search, there is the Gittins family. So once you click on that tab, it takes you directly to the website www.gittins.info. Gittins family. So it says here, genealogy of the Gittins and related families of Barbados from 1640 to 1900. I will click on the tab blog post grid, and that takes you to the page which provides you with various information pertaining to the Gittins family. So if you have Gittins in your genealogy, you might be able to scroll through this website and hopefully find information pertaining to someone in your family. So therefore we see here a picture of Ed on the right-hand side, Edwin Teddy Johnson Gittins, and you have the option to load more at the bottom. And you can scroll through and see various personnel, various like Gordon Paul Johnson and Ivan Clement Gittins, and we see that is not only limited to one element of society. We see that there is a James William Gittins from slavery to freedom. So therefore we see it's a mixture of various individuals who have contributed to this website under the surname Gittins. So if you have Gittins in your family history, you can scroll through this website and hopefully you can find information pertaining to any of your ancestors. So therefore, that is the information that is also available on the website caribbeanfamilyhistory.org. So I'm moving from Caribbean family history and moving from Fineagrave to another website which can be helpful in locating burial information pertaining to ancestors. This one is entitled, this website is www.archive.org/details/monumental ints, and yeah, there's a long title there, but you can Google monumental inscriptions of the churches and church yards of the island of Barbados, British West Indies. If you are unable to remember this website, just go on any search engine and you can enter the title, The Monumental Inscriptions of the churches and churchyards of the island of Barbados. And just to inform you, this book, the information was gathered in the years 1913 and 1914, and this book was compiled in 1915. And this contains transcriptions of the various monuments and tombstones located in the various church and churchyards, as was mentioned, and also on some plantations as well. So if we go, let me bring up closer, and you can go to page, let's say 14. Yes, and this begins the transcriptions of the monuments and tombstones. This begins with St. Michael's Cathedral. And from what I gathered through scrolling through this book, it starts with the parish of St. Michael and the churches in that parish, and then it moves on to the various parishes. So therefore it begins with St. Michael. But if you don't want to just scroll through just in hope of finding records pertaining to your ancestors, you can scroll to the back. The index begins at page 208. Let me see, 208. And we see the indexes, and they're alphabetically sorted. So if you have someone whose surname was Aline, you can look here, you can come and see Aline, and you can find the page, and you can scroll through the book and find various informations pertaining to the tombstones of persons who were buried throughout Barbados. There are various inscriptions that are presented here. Not only the churches, but also there are other religions in Barbados. So therefore, beginning at page 196, let me scroll to page 196. On the right, we see Jewish burial ground, Bridgetown. So therefore, it's not just the churches. We know that there were other religions in Barbados. Mainly, there were the Quakers. There was mainly, yes, the Christian church, but there was also those of the Jewish faith. And there's various burial information provided pertaining to persons of the Jewish faith as well. So this is one website that persons can use if you are interested in finding the burial records of your ancestors. And now I will move on to another website, which also contains burial information. Sorry if it comes over as morbid in terms of looking at all these burial records, but we know that burial records can be helpful if you're researching your genealogy. So now we come to the website, www.monumentalarchiveproject.com. This here is a free subscription-based website. You don't have to pay a fee to access the information which is available on this website. Okay, so we are now on the home page. And at the bottom of the home page, it says current collections include 16 churchyards in Barbados, so you can explore the database. Okay, I will scroll back up. And you can click on the tab About, which I will click on About. And this gives you some information pertaining to the website. And based on my research about this website, okay, it provides you with the goal and the persons who were involved in the construction of this website. So if you want to know about the project, the Monumental Archive project, you can click on the About tab and see who the persons who were involved in this website. But now I will click on the tab titled Collections. Scroll through. And this provides information pertaining to the various churches in Barbados. We see the first church listed is All Saints Chapel, and this provides background information to the various churches located throughout Barbados. Not only the churches, but some burial grounds as well. Not everyone was buried in a church cemetery. You see here at the bottom, there is Easy Hall plantations. There were some persons who were buried on plantations as well. So this provides you with some information pertaining to the burial grounds on plantations. So there's Easy Hall plantation, Malvern plantation, there's Welchman Hall plantation, and there's also the Quaker burial ground. So this is quite useful if you want to know about the various cemeteries and burial grounds in Barbados. But if we go back to the top, let's click on the tab named Archive. And if you scroll down, okay, this page, you have to give it some time to load. This provides you with the meat of the matter, the information that you might be looking for. Aha, and it appears. So therefore, this provides you with the transcriptions of the various tombstones and monuments within the various churches. So if I click on, let's go to the third option, and let's click, and it reads under inscription, to the memory of Thomas Griffith, Esquire, and Jane, his wife, a pair for many years most happily united by the sweetness of all ties. And it goes on to read further. So therefore, this next way, it says that this is a wall plaque, and this is located in the St. Michael's Cathedral. And if we click on image, which is located next to under the heading image, unfortunately, it does not take you directly to the wall plaque. So therefore, you have to go through these various images to find the information that you are looking for. Unfortunately, that is the case. But let's click on one of the tabs, and let's see the information which is provided. So we see that this is a wall plaque in St. Michael's Cathedral. Unfortunately, it's not a clear image. Let's go on another one. Yes, so we see that this provides you with the actual pictures of the wall plaques, and it also provides you with the various images of the tombstones. So let me go and click on the tombstone. So these are the wall plaques which are located within St. Michael's Cathedral. St. Michael's Cathedral. And there are quite a number of plaques that are located within St. Michael's Cathedral, and this provides you also with the tombstones which are located within the church. Thankfully, these collections are also, you can search to find the ancestors you might be looking for. Let's see. So let me scroll back to the top. Okay, so this is one website that can be helpful if you're doing genealogical research. Aha. Okay. Go back to home. Okay, let me go to collections. Go to archives. Okay. Okay, it takes some time to load, unfortunately. Genealogical research. Aha. So at the top, we can see that there's the option that you can enter a name. So let me enter the name Shillstone. Shillstone. And we see that it provides us with a transcription of the tombstone. It says, sacred to the memory of Thomas W. Shillstone, merchant of this city, who departed this life on the 16th of February, 1817. And under the section image, you can click on image. And let's see. Yes, as I mentioned, unfortunately, it does not take you directly to the tombstone, but is a work in process as it relates to this website. Okay. All right, so let's move on to our next website, which is www.dloc.com. The DLOC, it stands for Digital Library of the Caribbean. And this can also be helpful in terms of genealogical research, as it provides you access to the wills of persons. So under search collection, okay, let me tell you a little bit about this website. Let's see. No thanks. Yes. Okay, this is a freely accessible website. You don't need to subscribe nor pay a fee to access the information which is available on this website. As it reads, the Digital Library of the Caribbean is a cooperative digital library for resources from and about the Caribbean and circum-Caribbean. The Digital Library of the Caribbean partner institutions are the core of this website. The DLOC partners retain all rights to their materials and provide access to digitized version of Caribbean culture, historical, and research materials currently held in archives, libraries, and private collections. Now with this, under search collections, you have the option to enter, let's say, Barbados Archives Department. Barbados Archives Department. And you can click on go. And what you can access is various information pertaining various records which are available. But what I mainly want to focus on just give me a minute. Sorry for this. Barbados. Yeah, Barbados Archives Department. Yes. What we can seek to obtain from this website. If I scroll down, I want to scroll down to the numbers 12 and 13. 12 and 13. Okay. This provides you with two index which I want to look at. Number 13 is named Proved Will Index 1860 to 1959. So once I click on that, let's see. This provides you with a PDF file, which you have the option of downloading. And you can scroll through this if you might have had an ancestor that you are not too sure the year that the person passed away, that you can scroll through this, and we know that wills were proved or probated within the same year or probably a few years after the death of a person. So therefore, you have the option of scrolling through this PDF file to probably locate, to find the name of a deceased ancestor. So therefore, that will give you a clue to the year that the person died, and hopefully you can go and use probably CaribbeanFamilyHistory.org to locate burial information pertaining to the person. So therefore, this can be a helpful link that you can use. And also, it can also provide you with the foreknowledge of what you might need when you go and visit the Barbados Department of Archives. When you're filling out their slip, you just write original proved will, the person's name, and the year. So with, let's say, this first person, you just write original proved will, Agard Joseph, and the year 1872, and you would be able to get the written will of Joseph Agard. So this, unfortunately, it does not provide you with the will, but it provides you with the index that you can stay at home and you can scroll through and you can find all the ancestors that you might be looking for that hopefully wrote wills, and you can note them down so that the next time that you pay a visit to the archives department, you are able to access the will in a timely manner. Let me go back to the collections and above proved wills. At number 12, we have inventories of property and personal effects from 1764 to 1888. This can be helpful. This can be helpful also in identifying probably the year or the time period in which a person passed. Let's click on this, and it provides you also with a PDF file. Let's wait for it to load. It provides you with a PDF file which contains the indexes of persons the inventories of property and personal effects from the year 1764 to 1888. From what I gather pertaining to this collection, let's say a person, they wrote a will, let's say they say, I direct that all my personal properties be sold and converted into money, and that the money be divided among, let's say, my 3 children. A list, of course, you had to identify the various properties that a person owned, and also you had to do an appraisal. You had to find out how much each object was worth, and then you do a tally. So it has come up, the PDF file. And if you scroll down, we see, well, there's a note at the top. Let's see. There's a note at the top. Okay, I'm scrolling down. Inventory. Yeah, there are no inventories between 1764 and 1780. Inventories without parish information are not included. Many are in too poor condition to be issued, but as we can see, it provides you with, it begins with parishes. So there's inventories by parish, and we see here St. Andrew, and it begins, the first person that we see is a John Allen. He resided in Belle Plaine, and this inventory was carried out in 1870. Yes, and at first it is arranged according to the parish, and then it goes on parish, and then it goes on to Bridgetown and Speightstown, that is located on page 29. Let me go and click and go to page 29. And we see inventories of persons who resided in Bridgetown and Speightstown. We see Bridgetown, the first one, the year 1818. The person's name is Adams Samuel Glegg. So this can be helpful, and I am now going to show you an example. Let me see. Okay. This here, okay, this is an example of an inventory. So as I mentioned, a person might have stated in their will that, okay, I want my property to be sold and the money given to my children. So this here is the inventory of a lady named Mary Dowden, which was conducted in the year 1828. It provides you with various information. Appraisement done under the hand of this honor, the President John Brathwaite Skeet, dated the 18th of June, 1828, to Mary Ann Tudor, who was the administratrix of the will of Mary Dowden. So therefore, if we scroll down, you can see the various properties that was owned, which also included enslaved persons, and we see how much they were worth. So we see in the first line, house and land in Chapel Street, which was approximately 1,620 square feet, and that was valued at £250. And we also see persons, a woman named Kitty, and she was worth £50. And if we scroll down, we see scroll down that the total was £1,796, 15 shillings and 7.5 pence. So therefore, this can be helpful to persons who are descendants of enslaved persons. It can provide you with a listing of persons of enslaved ancestors and their value if you are interested in that information. I will now return to the website. Okay, and we will move from this to one entitled the Statue of Liberty.org. Now, this provides information pertaining to persons who travel to the United States, mainly those who entered through the port of New York through Ellis Island, which is located in New York. So therefore, you can use this. This can be helpful in terms of tracing the genealogies of persons who might have traveled overseas. This is a subscription-based website, so therefore you have to subscribe to access the information that is available on this website. Okay, so you can do a passenger search. And at the bottom it says you can start your search, and you can click on that button. And you can enter the names of persons who might have traveled to the United States. And this spans the time period between 1820 to 1957. So if you know that there is someone in your, if you know someone in your family tree, they travel to the United States via the port of New York, you can use this to access information. So I will enter a name, let's say the first name. I would enter Edward. And for last name, I would enter Bibi. And click on the button which says results. And this provides you with various persons named Edward Bibi, and we see that first person, their last place of residence was Barbados, and they arrived at the port of New York in the year 1912. So let's click on Edward Bibi, the first option. Let's click on the button that says passenger records, which is on the right-hand side. And let's see the information which is provided. And we see that the name of the ship that he traveled on, the Clement, is provided. An image of the ship is also provided. The date of arrival, which was the 25th of April, 1912. The port of departure was Barbados, British West Indies. And if you scroll down, you have the option of purchasing information, which is provided here. His first name, Edward, last name, Bibi. Nationality, he was a US citizen. Last place of residence was Barbados. Date of arrival was April the 25th, 1912. Age at arrival was 76 years of age. His gender was male, and marital status, he was widowed at this time. It provides you with the name of the ship and the port of departure, which was Barbados. And if you scroll down, okay, so that is quite helpful. You have the option of clicking on ship manifest. And you can scroll down and you have the option of purchasing the information which is provided, or you can just scroll further down and you have an image of the record which is available. You have the option of zooming across to see the various information, or you have the option of clicking on the tab which says full image, and it's fully provided there. And what I realized with these documents, these were very long documents. So if you check at the top, okay, let me go back. Let's go back. Let's click on the right-hand side. You see that there's some image of some records that are located on the right-hand side. Let's click on the second one, which is numbered 0443. Let me click on full image, and let's examine this record. It says list of manifests of alien passengers for the United, and then the first image that I was on, it goes on to read United States, etc. But if you look below it, below where it says list of manifests, we see the SS Clement, but below that we see that there are some numbers. So there's, if you notice, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Under 1, it says number on list. So we see that there's various numbers. Under 2, it says name in full, family name, and given name. So therefore we see, let's examine the second person, Robert Clementina. So let's just take some time to examine these records which is provided. So we see that there's a person named Robert Clementina, that she was 24 years of age. that she was female, well, of course, female, her, if married or single, and it has S, which stands for single, and it has calling or occupations, and we see that she was a domestic, able to read, yes, able to write, yes, nationality, they have England, and take in mind that Barbados was a colony of England. So therefore, in some cases, you will see the nationality or country of birth, well-known nationality being England. And we see here next to nationality, there is race or people, and that she was African, or just to say that she was Black. Last permanent resident was Barbados. And then there's some helpful information next to that, which can help you in your genealogical research. It says here, it's under the title, the name and complete address of nearest relative or friend to country where alien came. Okay, so for Clementina Roberts, we have, yes, the writing is very small, unfortunately. Let me see if I can bring it up bigger. And let's examine that record. And it reads, yes, Clementina, the nearest relative was her mother, and her mother's name is Susan Bancroft, and she resided in Brer Hill, Barbados. And I just want to provide a tip, as we see here that her mother has the surname Bancroft, but Clementina, she has the surname Roberts. And this is where many persons lose trace in terms of their genealogical research, and to provide persons with information. Sometimes in terms of the burial records, they would have the child listed under the mother's surname, but later on in life, the child would have adopted the father's surname. So we see here that with this record, it has under the title married or single, that she was single. So therefore, I am assuming that Roberts is her maiden name. So sometimes, okay, for clarity, as I mentioned before, in the baptism records, so let's take this person for example, she might have been baptized. In the baptism record, it would have Clementina Bancroft, but she might have adopted her father's surname, which might have been Roberts. So therefore, this gives problems when you're doing your genealogical research, especially those who are researching children of unmarried parents. Sometimes they would have the baptism, the surname of the mother, but then the person would have adopted the father's surname. So let's say for this example, the baptism record might have had Clementina Bancroft, but she adopted the name Clementina Roberts. So that's a helpful hint if you're doing genealogical research. So let's continue with this record. Okay, it just gives her final destination, which was New York, Brooklyn. Okay, and then as I mentioned, it continues on. So let's click on the first image, which is 0442. Full image, and let's scroll in. And the number on the list, we're still with 2, which is the same Clementina Roberts, and it goes on to list whether having a ticket, and it says yes, that she had a ticket, and by whom was the passage paid? It was by herself. But if we scroll across to under number 18, we see that she was going to be with her sister, and a name is provided. I cannot make out the first name, but the person has the surname Walcott, and it provides you with an address of 106 Lawrence Street, Brooklyn. And it goes on to provide you with the height. The person was 5 feet 11 inches. Complexion was that she's colored, her color of hair black, color of eyes black. So we see here that this can be quite helpful if you had an ancestor that traveled to New York. You can find various information pertaining to persons via this website, statueofliberty.org. And this website will be the last website that I will look at, because I know that time is slipping away, unfortunately. So these are just a few of the various websites that persons can use if they are interested in genealogical research. So as I mentioned before, you can stay within the comfort of your own home and you can engage in genealogical research. But lastly, I would like to thank the various persons who have spent their time and effort going and collecting the information, and not only collecting the information, but creating websites to showcase these information. If I would just point out that I attempted to create a website February of this year during the lockdown here in Barbados. I attempted to create a website, and let me tell you, that is not an easy activity, especially if you want to create a searchable database. So therefore, I would just again want to express thanks to the various persons who have been a part in terms of creating these various websites, that we can go and we can freely access these information. So just to inform those who are watching and participating, this is just part one. I intend to have a part two, and I would look at other websites. I would look at the mother of all websites that you can use if you want to research the genealogies of persons in Barbados. That website is named www.familysearch.org. That is a key website that you can use if you're engaging in genealogical research. So at this point in time, I will end and I will hand over to Harriet Pierce.
Thank you, Nicholas, for a very informative session. And as Nicholas informed you, we will be coming back with a second part of this presentation, in which you'll be looking at, as you call it, the mother of websites, FamilySearch.org, which is managed by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and some other, I would say minor, but other valuable websites. Before I open the floor to your questions or comments, we've had some requests, Nicholas, for a list of the websites. So we want to provide that, compile that, and if possible, if it can be appended to our YouTube video, if that can work. And for persons, if that doesn't work, my email address is library@barbnews.org.bb. I will type it in. And if you want that appended, that compiled list, just send me an email and I can send it directly to you. We'll also have it when we have part two of the presentation, but we want to give you something before then. I wanted to add a couple items to the section on Caribbean family history. Nicholas pointed out that the Clark family tab is not working, but I want persons out there who are interested in the Clark family to know that that database was actually deposited here at the museum. The database, as well as all of the original documents that were used in its compilation. So you can contact me if you wish to have any information from that database. In addition, the Westbury Cemetery records on Caribbean Family Search, it goes to 2011. But here at the museum, we actually have that database going to February 2014. So remember those two things, both the Clark family database and the Westbury Cemetery database up to from 1877 until February 2014. I will now open the floor. So you just type your questions. Have someone here. Okay. Right, part 2 is going to be tentatively July 22nd. Yes, but we will confirm that with you. So that is from K. We have one person who's asking if all husbands are related. You want to? I don't think so. But Nicholas, you can add your piece to that.
Okay. I just want persons to take in mind that, unfortunately, as persons might or may not know, we have a divided history. There is the history of the enslaved and there is the history of the enslavers. And pertaining to if all husbands are related, just take in mind that before emancipation, which was the first, well, we have actually 2 dates for emancipation, the 1st of August 1834. After that date, the enslaved population entered a period of apprenticeship, and that came to an end the 1st of August 1838 when full emancipation was granted. And before and prior to emancipation, most, if not all, of the enslaved persons did not possess surnames. These surnames were ascribed to them after emancipation. In some cases, persons selected their surnames. In other cases, it was a case where the priest gave the person a surname. So it could be simple, a priest look at you and say, okay, I will give you the surname Husbands. Or it could be a case where, okay, if you state the plantation from which you came from, that is persons who were enslaved, the person might say, okay, there's somebody, the manager's surname is Husband, so therefore I will assign unto you the surname Husbands. So therefore there was no fixed way of persons who are descendants of the enslaved. There was no fixed way of ascribing a surname to those newly emancipated Barbadians. So therefore, just be mindful of that just because somebody else bears the surname Husbands does not necessarily mean that that person could be related to you, whether if it was a near relative or distant relative. So take that in mind. It might be so mainly for the white section of the community, but not so for the Black section of the community.
Just to add to that, there was some, in addition to persons being ascribed, I think some of the newly freed persons also took it upon themselves to adopt some of surnames that they preferred, whether they be people that they admired or for whatever reason. So there was some agency also involved in the development of surnames for the newly enslaved, for newly emancipated, sorry. Any other questions or comments? Okay, since there are no other questions, I'm not seeing any hands. Oh, there's some further down. Yes, the recording will be on uploaded to YouTube, and it will also continue to be available on Facebook, because we run 2 platforms simultaneously, Zoom and Facebook Live. Okay, someone is asking, the maternal grandparents were from Black Bass. One of the things we should also mention in these sessions, that it is also good to look at the district to learn a bit about the area in which your ancestors were born and lived. And I think Nicholas would have done a lot of work on Baby's Lane, but you can do that for any district in which your ancestors live. And a book that is very helpful is Of Halls, Hills, and Holes, Place Names of Barbados. And that is available here at the museum. There's another. Someone was asking about the status of the digitization of the records at the archives. We really cannot speak to that. I am sure they will be letting you know what they're doing currently. The last project, I think, would have been the digitization of the newspapers, right? And they are available on DLOC, one of the sites that Nicholas mentioned, the Digital Library of the Caribbean.
Oh yeah, and also pertaining to that, the website that we will be looking at in our next presentation, I intend to look at FamilySearch.org, and that is quite helpful. That contains practically most of the records that can, most of the digitized baptisms, marriage, and burial records. So if you stay tuned and you are interested, you can log on to our next presentation, which should be in July, and I can guide you through how to access those various information through that website, FamilySearch.org. So stay tuned to that. And also, what I also failed to mention, that there are other websites that can help you in terms of your genealogical research. If I just share just one of them, if permission is granted.
Go ahead.
Okay. It is also vital to, as Harriet mentioned, to know about the history of the island. So this link as well, Creole links, can also be helpful in helping you to understand the history of Barbados. So this is one website that you can use, creolelinks.com, and also you can use this website, barbadosgen.wordpress.com. This is a wealth of information. This provides you with a wealth of information that you can use to better help you to understand the history. It's good to understand the history of the country as well. So therefore, you can use this to access information pertaining to the history of Barbados, and also the newsletters which we produce every quarter. Every quarter. This can be helpful. So you can take a look at these various connections newsletter, and these provide you with snippets of our history. So if I demonstrate, you have this edition, which looks at the legacy of Major Herbert Walter Pebbles. It also provides you on migration stories. It also, as I'm showing you here, the royal family in Barbados. It provides you with the history of the royal family. So therefore, this can be quite helpful in helping you to understand the history of the island and how certain names were more so in a certain part of the island as compared to others. And also, I would end on this last point. Please try to gather as much information as possible if you're doing your genealogical research. If you come and state that, oh, my grandfather's name was George Brathwaite and he was from St. Michael, that is not quite helpful, because knowing local history, Brathwaite is a very common name in Barbados, and St. Michael, that was always a very highly populated parish. So therefore, that would be looking that would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. So please try to gather as much information as possible from living relatives, from friends of your family and such stuff, if you want to be successful in your genealogical research. And I will end on that note.
And when you gather that information, don't leave it in your head. Make sure you buy a notebook and document so that you can add to it. And it is always there. You don't have to scratch your head when you go to an actual department to do your research. So I just want to let persons who are interested in contacting Nicholas or myself, please, my email address is in the chat, library@barbnews.org.bb. Send me an email, and if it is specifically for Nicholas, I will forward it. All right. So I just want to thank you all for being here with us today and being such an interactive audience. I want to thank Nicholas again for sharing so much, a wealth of information. Pre-COVID, we would have had an actual sit-down workshop, which we've done a number of times. But since we cannot do that, we've tried to do it in this forum. So thank you all for being with us. Thank you, Nicholas. And we look forward to seeing you in July. So be safe. Bye.